Hey, I've already had 5 cups of coffee. Let's go.
When I posted my main Battlefield 2042 review video, my conclusion was that a lot of my issues with the game weren't the launch bugs, but the actual core design decisions that were made with the foundation of the game. And although I covered those issues, I didn't really talk about how they could be fixed. So in this video, I want to focus on some possible solutions, and we're going to rank these by tier of possibility here. We're going to have the big brain option, the medium brain option, and the tiny brain option. The big brain option is going to be what my heart hopes for. These are going to be some wide-ranging suggestions that I really hope DICE would be able to do, but these are solutions that I don't think they're going to do. I think these changes are going to be perhaps too wide-reaching, too ambitious, and I think that in some cases they're going to want to just write the game off rather than do these. So big brain option is, I hope so, but I doubt it. Medium brain option is going to be what I think is most likely. It's at least a partial solution to the issue that I'm talking about. Probably what they're going to go for is kind of the safe option. And then we have the tiny brain option. This is my fear for these issues. These are basically going to be the solutions that they're just going to double down on and just make things worse with. Given this game's track record so far, some of these might come true. And just one final note before we start listing out these issues, I'm not saying that any of this is going to be an easy fix or an obvious fix. It's way easier for me to sit here and script out a video with solutions that I can come up with. It's a whole different issue to not only develop some of these solutions, but then work through management and game studio bureaucracy and actually get these changes implemented. So don't take it the wrong way. I'm definitely not suggesting that any of this is going to be an easy fix. Alright, first issue I have with the game's current design. That's actually the vehicle spawn system. You guys thought I was going to talk about specialists, right? Don't worry, we're going to get to them, but this is kind of a pet peeve for me. 2042 has some neat vehicles, but the implementation of this new vehicle category spawn system, along with some of the vehicles they've chosen to fill out this system, it's just not working. It's making the vehicle experience miserable, but the infantry experience even more miserable. Why are there so many low capacity armed transport quote-unquote vehicles in this game? You're hardly ever seeing the large transport aircraft flying these days, unless you have one of the game's few really good pilots left, because everyone wants to spawn the easier vehicles to use, the ones you can go solo with, of course, the little birds. And then of course you have the Bolt. Probably one of the most obnoxious vehicles that I've ever seen in any Battlefield game. Everyone is running the Bolt, and if you want to call in a transport jeep to get your squad around back of an enemy area and get some back caps going, well, too bad, because 5 of your teammates are zooming around in a armored single player turret trying to rack up infantry kills. Before launch with these larger maps, I was excited with the possibility of actually just being able to be a transport pilot or an Amtrak driver, just getting your team to the objective. But there's so many players, including myself sometimes, hogging these basically solo vehicles that are placed under the transport category. The vehicle balance and spawn system is just way off. What's the solution? Big brain solution is remove this stupid spawn category system thing. Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 had perfectly functional vehicle spawn systems for choosing which vehicles are allowed per map, and then of course you have Battlefield 3 and 4 to look at as well. Any of those previous solutions I think worked way better. So big brain option, revert to a previous game's spawn system. Medium brain option, work on these categories. Maybe create a armed transport category and then a unarmed transport category, you know, one where only the passengers have guns, which are just actual transport vehicles, and then vehicles where the pilots have weapons as well, or in the case of the Bolt, you can quick switch with your vehicle for a weapon, a good weapon and good armor. Try to split it out so that you have more often just transport vehicles being used again, and that'll also help limit the amount of the attack transports zooming around. Also, if they're going to keep the categories, I think that the jets and helicopters should definitely get their own separate categories. That way you don't have one jet just harvesting choppers that your team keeps spawning, and you can't spawn your team's jet because, again, they're just spawning choppers. Also, a good medium brain option here, add in the ATV drops. That might be less of an overhead perhaps for server performance, but that'll get players around a bit quicker. Let them drop in the ATVs perhaps instead of a Ranger. That'd be pretty cool too. For the tiny brain option on this one, I'm going to say double down, keep the categories, and add 6 new armed transports for players to hog, and you're never going to see that transport jeep ever again. Okay, I won't put them off to the end of the video. Let's go ahead and talk about Specialist.
Ooh, sorry. I mean, I am as shocked as you.
Everybody knows at this point how just unpopular the Specialists are. This is not supposed to be a hero shooter, and yet that's basically what we're playing right now. So, big brain option, completely remove the Specialists, rip them out of the game, never to be seen again, and give us the classes back. This legally probably can't happen because I believe that new Specialists were promised as part of the season pass that is delayed, but people have already purchased, so I doubt we're going to see the big brain option. But man, I wish that the Specialist had never even been discussed as a design element. It really just does not feel like a Battlefield game with them. So that leaves us with the much more likely medium brain option for this one, and that is to, of course, like a lot of people have suggested before, take the Specialists and split them into the traditional classes. So you'd have a few Specialists that are your assault, a few Specialists that are your medic, etc. An even better option than just locking them by class, which would even be approaching a big brain solution, I think, would be to faction lock the Specialist as well. One of the worst parts of the game is you shooting, or in some cases stabbing, your clone, whose only difference is wearing a glowy red glow stick to show that they're enemy. It just looks ridiculous. At least when all of the class soldiers in previous games were the same, they were more generic looking soldiers without having these unique skins and voice lines, and it makes no sense to have these clone armies running around. So ideally, for the medium brain option here for Specialists, faction lock them and class lock them. I would even say that this solution may even be likely to happen. There's been so much pushback on the Specialist that they've got to be at least considering it. Regardless, the first thing that they should do with the Specialist is just delete the cringy voice lines from the game entirely. Just delete it, have the end screens be just music. No one outside of the meme makers care about those voice lines. And don't get me wrong, the memes are great. I'm just so tired of those voice lines in the game. Get them out of there. On the flip side though, tiny brain option. What if we just double down, add more Specialists? Add more custom skins, perhaps with some more red or carbon fiber teal patterns? That would be pretty cool, right? That's what the overall community would actually get excited about, right? Don't be sad. Maps. So this is actually where I'm going to diverge a bit from, I think, what the overall community opinion is here. I'm not convinced that 128 players just is never going to work for Battlefield. I was so excited for these higher player counts, and at times, the higher player counts in the current version of the game on these larger maps has been pretty fun. The idea that your squad might be fighting over a couple of points that other people don't even fight over that match until they take a transport over near the end or something to interrupt the fight, being able to move from hot zone to hot zone with tons of other players, I mean, that's a pretty cool idea on paper. Obviously, the current version of the game is not working with these large maps and these larger player counts. To me here, this is one of the much more difficult questions of how to fix it. So I think for the big brain solution, it's going to be a complete rethink of the flow of the maps. And one of the first things they could do is to actually, like I mentioned earlier, improve the vehicle spawn categories and make it way easier to have more transport vehicles available both at the start of the match and for random call-ins. How much better would the current versions of the maps play if you were guaranteed a ride in a pickup truck or a transport jeep at the start of the match, and there wasn't that ridiculous run to get to the action at the start? Would players accept a bit of running once the match was going if they had actually chosen to spawn at a more out-of-way area in the map? Maybe. But yeah, everyone agrees, the initial run and grind to get to the action is really bad as the match starts. So if you can solve the transport issue, then the maps just need some flow updates. Of course, add some new cover to them, add a detail pass, so new props and make the maps feel a bit more lived in if the overhead can take it. I still can't believe that they released these games on last gen console too, so I'm not convinced that there's any memory budget left in this game to add more detail, but these maps do need it. I think the medium brain option that is probably what's going to happen is going to be them just shrinking the maps a bit, not solving the transport issue, and really not adding a whole lot of cover. They're probably going to move some points around, some capture areas just slightly, but if you look at these maps, the capture areas are based on the artwork of the level, so they can only move them so much, and I'm worried that we're just going to get that medium brain solution of just a non-stop 12-month amount of tweaking back and forth, trying to make the maps play a bit better, and that's not going to bring players back. For the maps, the tiny brain option is going to be just release more maps that are just like the ones we already have. I'm actually a bit worried that this might be the case because we haven't seen any teases whatsoever of the new maps that might be coming, outside of a leaked thumbnail that may or may not be correct for the next map, but also looked like a lot of open space. So tiny brain option might also be happening here too. Let's also talk about the HUD. This one is just a mess. This HUD is so overwhelming. It actually gives me a headache to play this game for too long, especially on the darker maps with lots of shadows or rain. And why is it always raining in this game? Just a pet peeve of mine. If I'm in a chopper, it just feels like it's always raining. Anyway, the HUD, the user interface, there is so much going on here, and I think the big brain option is just learn from the previous games. Go back, look at Battlefield 5, look at Battlefield 1, look at Battlefield 3. I think had one of the cleanest HUDs in the last 10 years. Strip out all of this information that players don't need to have, especially with these maps being larger. I don't need to see where every point is. Only show points when I'm looking right at them. We have an overview map. Just show the nearest point or two and fade everything out as a default. It would just make the game look so much cleaner. Hide those points. Shrink down the size and brightness of everything on the HUD, and please, please, please give us the HUD configuration options that especially Battlefield 4 had for all of that game's flaws. The customization that you could do with your user interface was just incredible. You could strip that thing down and streamline it until you had just the right amount of info to actually fight the battle without it, again, just giving you a headache. So big brain option, I guess, is really just reference the previous games and give us what you did right back then. Medium brain option, let's just say that's again what I fear is probably most likely, and that's that we're just going to get some overall cleanup to the HUD, a few things faded out, maybe a few things shrunk down, but still just way too busy, way too much information. And I think the tiny brain solution for the HUD would be if we just still ended up with even more things on it somehow. I don't even know how that would happen. Like, would we end up with our weekly challenges stuck permanently to the side of the screen as you're trying to shoot? Every time you ADS, a little laser pops up with, here's how to unlock your weeklies. I don't know. It's the HUD's in bad shape. I'm actually not sure how it could be a ton worse, at least as far as busyness goes. So let's just hope for some improvement there. Alright guys, there you have it. Those are my main issues with the game and how I think DICE could fix them, might fix them, and then hopefully won't fix them. Hope you guys enjoyed this format. This one was a bit more fun than just ranting about these issues. So let me know what you guys thought. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.